Hey, hey, you are listening to Wolt Tech Talks podcast. My name is Jerry. I'm the host today. This episode is about analytics. We'll talk about how we approach analytics at Wolt, how analytics is structured in our organization, and we'll also share learnings about our analytics journey. We have grown quite rapidly during the past years, and our approach to analytics has naturally matured along the way. To discuss these interesting topics, I have two amazing guests. Kshira, Head of International Analytics and Data Science, and Elif, Head of Analytics in the New Verticals domain. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Harry. Really excited to be here.
Thank you very much. Exciting times ahead.
Let's start by short introductions. And while introducing yourself, could you also share what excites you the most in our analytics domain? Maybe Kshira, would you go first?
Sure. Thank you. I'm happy to do that. So my name is Kshira. I take care of analytics at Wolt. I call myself the lost and found guy, which basically means I help people find things that they've lost. In a nutshell, if there was no data and no technology, and if we lived 200 years ago, I'd be working in a railway station trying to find lost luggage for people. So that's what I enjoy doing. And so I think I try to bring that nature to what I do for a living, where I help people find answers to questions that things that they've lost. They've lost some money, revenue, they've lost some new customers, they've lost some market share. How do we find it? It's probably technically my job, my team's job. That's what I like to think. The reason I love being in the analytics team at Wolt is because I feel analytics at Wolt has a seat at the table, in a sense that we are part of the decision-making process. We help the teams make smarter, better decisions. We help people understand what is the benefit of doing something and keep everyone honest and accountable. So that's why I really love being at analytics. And also, we call the analytics team the truth-seeking team at Wolt, which basically means we are here to find the truth and hunt down the truth. The funny thing is, often when people talk about analytics, they like to imagine Sherlock Holmes, because they like to think Sherlock Holmes is the guy who finds and solves puzzles. But I like to think of us and our team as Sherlock's brother, Mycroft Holmes, because if you're a true Sherlock Holmes fan, you know that Sherlock only can solve things that he can see, but Mycroft, who his brother is, who Sherlock goes to for help, is the one who can see things that are beyond the obvious and can connect the dots that Sherlock can't see. So we like to be the Mycroft Holmes team of the company, where we are trying to connect the dots that's happening across the business and help solve problems. So that's why I'm excited to be here. That's me.
I can continue then. So once again, my name is Elif. I'm leading the New Verticals Analytics team. This is basically like one sub-team within the wider analytics organization, and like my focus is on the specifically New Vertical team. And like if the question is like what that is, basically the goal of the New Vertical domain is to building the best shopping mall in your pockets, but also like delivering anything, of course, like starting from the weekly groceries. So with that, like me and like my team's focus has been on supporting that domain from the analytics perspective, of course. Uncovering the unknown, like Kshira has been also telling, providing information about like how we can grow the business, of course, like supporting different kind of ideation process, different types of deep dives and so on. And why do I like this, or like what excites me? Like there are actually two parts to that, I would say. Like first, like why I even came to Wolt. Originally, when I joined Wolt, which was like 1.5 years ago, exactly, I would say, the domain itself was one driver, like meaning I actually was looking forward to work with the retail domain, the groceries, milks and bananas, like problems like that on a day-to-day basis. So that was one driver, plus the people here. And on top of that, actually building the team here almost from scratch, I would say, because when I joined the team, my team was like fairly small. Building the team and like not supporting them from only the analytics perspective, but also helping them to become true partners to the people we work with, like has been like one important aspect, because we don't want the team to be just let's say like a help desk where people come to us with a specific question and then we provide the data and that's it. This is not how we want to work. We actually want to work together on a problem, and supporting the team through that journey has been like a very satisfying thing for me, I would say.
Great, thank you for the introductions. I think this is a good bridge to start talking about our unique approach to analytics. And if I heard correctly, you mentioned seat at the table and true partners. Could we start by kind of explaining or diving a bit deeper into those? What do you actually mean by those?
Yeah. So I can go first, so if you don't mind. Yeah. So with seat at the table, what do you mean is, so this is a metaphorical decision-making table in the business, right? So typically, if you imagine any business as three key people making decisions when they have to do something, it could be something as simple as where do we spend more money in, or it could be something as complex, a little bit more complex as what kind of new features do we build for our consumers or merchants or our couriers, or something even bigger than which countries do we go into next. Could be any of those spectrums. We make a decision as a business. There are three key partners in any business. One is the business team, the ops team that actually make that decision, because they're the one that need to actually go and execute it. Then there are the product and engineering folks who then help enable build to that decision. So if you want to build up, let's take a hypothetical example, right? So you want to build a new feature on the app. So somebody decides in the business that we want to show a different way of structured merchandising of products. So that's a business decision. Then the product folks and the engineering folks will help enable and make the decision. Then the finance team is obviously in the room to say, hey, who can pay for this and how do we pay for it? So those are three key people in the room. In that room, what typically is missing, and that's the good thing about Wolt, is now we have the analytics team in the room too, who then validate, and like I said, we are the truth seekers to help figure out if that's the right. So we help on three different things, right? We make the triangle a square by basically saying, is this the right thing to build for the business team, and validate it for them, so that we're not just building because somebody wants it, but is it the right thing to do for the business? We help the product and engineering team to measure and say, hey, have you built the right thing? We wanted it. Is it built right, and is it working the right way? And we also help the finance team to justify and validate, is it paying in the long term? Because everything will eventually work, but how quickly is it paying back? So somebody needs to help all these three teams, and that's the analytic team. So in the decision-making room, on the table, in almost all conversations, we have analytics in the room saying, hey, are we doing the right thing by the business? Are we doing the right thing by our audience? And are we doing the right thing by our employees who are working on this? And that's why I'm excited. And that's what I mean by analytics as a seat at the table and the metaphorical decision-making table.
Great. So sounds like the fourth seat, to be exact, if I interpret correctly. Yeah. Yes.
The fourth seat, or the fourth pillar, or the fourth estate, you can call us that. We keep people honest and accountable, and we help people make smarter decisions.
So by true partner, actually, like what we are thinking is about trust, like how you work together. In then, like who is a partner to you? In then, is someone that you can rely on, that you can work on something together, or from the business perspective. On then in real life, in then it's someone that you do things together, and we want that kind of form like in the team as well, so that we trust each other. We as an ethics team are actually seen as partners who are here to tell what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what is right or wrong in a way. Of course, this doesn't mean we are the judge of everything, but in then, since we have the skills to dive into the data, we can actually extract all sorts of different information to prove different type of hypotheses. And with that, you are in a position where we are actually able to tell, for example, like what is good for our business, like Kshira was also saying, and also what is not good. So, and this is actually where the true partner becomes, or being a true partner becomes important, so that we actually have the confidence and the trust to say that this doesn't make sense for the grand scheme of things. We should be actually doing this instead of that, and so on. So building this kind of trust and working in this kind of format is actually what being a true partner really means to us, I would say. Of course, how do you do this? Like showing the information or showing the insights, making recommendations based on that is a like crucial part of gaining that trust. Otherwise, you can't build that kind of relationship. And like there are different kind of things that we are doing, whether in terms of foundation analysis and like experimentation and so on. But in the end, it's all about not being the help desk, like I was saying earlier, so that we just provide what is being asked to us, but we actually ask why. Why do you need this, or why do you want to do this? What is the driver for this? So that then we can formulate the question correctly and then like dive deeper into the problem. And of course, like that that also comes in the form of prioritization as well, so that we are able to help the teams to prioritize what matters for the company or what doesn't, and so on and so forth. And again, these are all the key aspects of being a true partner from our perspective, I would say.
Great, thank you. I guess we could move on to talking a bit about like how analytics is overall structured within our semi-massive organization these days. So could you share some insights like how analytics fits to product and business and all the things we have and in the landscape?
Of course. Because analytics, like I said, I think you nicely put it, is the fourth seat in the room, or the fourth pillar to the whole conversation. We try to mirror ourselves in the same way that the organization or the product teams are structured, right? So we have literally people who work in the same domains that how product is structured at Wolt or engineering is structured at Wolt. So broadly, we have 5 different domains within analytics that people work on. And 2 auxiliary domains. So let's talk about the first 5 different domains that we have. So we have consumer as a domain, which is anything around how the consumer shops on the app, how she buys from us, how she engages with us, how the discovery works for her, how we price the products for her, how we market to her, everything around consumer and how the consumer interfaces with us. That's one domain. The other domain is the merchant domain. Obviously, the audience, merchant, as in our merchant partners, restaurants and retail partners. Who do we bring on board? How do we bring them on board? How do we help them succeed? How do we help them grow their business? How do we become really good partners for our merchants? That's the other team that works on it. Then the third domain is the courier and logistics domain. At the end of the day, we are a company that deliver food and grocery and retail. So there's a team that works on how do we optimize our courier network? How do we pay our couriers the right way? How do we take care of our courier engagement and happiness? How do we onboard couriers the right way? So all of the courier experience, courier payment, that's one, and balancing our network. The fourth domain is the support domain. So you can have a consumer who shops from us, you have a merchant who sells to them, and you have a courier who delivers the food. Yeah, obviously, Wolt is well known, and the true differentiator for Wolt is our amazing support and the wonderful human support that we offer our consumers and our merchants and our couriers. And so that's the team that supports the support team and the trust and safety. And then last but not the least, a big growth driver for our business has been the new verticals team, which is our third-party retail and Wolt markets and all of that stuff, that wonderful things that we do to come up with just beyond just being a food delivery business to being a shopping mall in your pocket, as Elif mentioned. So that's a new vertical team that focus on all these areas, but from the lens of how do we make new verticals work well for our consumers and also for the business. So those are the 5 domains that we have. And within each of these domains, we have data scientists and who work in the analytics space and also analytics engineers. We'll talk about that. So that's the 5 domains. Then we have 2 auxiliary domains to support both the team and also the wider business. So we have an analytics engineering domain. The analytics engineering domain are the people who eventually build the source of truth from all the data we get, who build the dashboards that the business relies on, and who build the key metrics that the business relies on. So the analytics engineering domain is the one that bring all this information together for both the data scientists to work on and for the business to work on. And then we have a new unique team at Wolt, which is called the BizOps team. And BizOps stands for business operations. And so imagine this team as the one that works directly across all these domains and across every problem, works directly with the countries and the regions. We've learned anything, we've learned that each country is different. So we have the BizOps team that work with each country and solve a country-specific problem with the country leadership to help them understand where the problem is. So to put it very simply, the BizOps team is the smoke detector in the room. They'll figure out if there is smoke, if there is fire, what's happening, what's going wrong. Then the analytics team will come and figure out how to build a fire extinguisher to solve the smoke. And then in the long term, how do we build fireproof and anti-inflammable products long term? So that's how we like to think about it. Somebody has to figure out what's going wrong, and somebody has to help fix how to fix it, and then somebody has to build long-term solutions. That's how we are structured as a team. And like I said, within each team, we have a combination of data scientists and analytics engineers. Data scientists are people who help figure out why something is happening. Like I said, there are smoke detectors to figure out why if something is going wrong, and then they can figure out why the smoke started or why the fire started, what's happening, what can we do to fix it. So what should you do to fix it? So initially at Wolt, we were called we had the analytics team who are all analysts, and now we evolved them to be data scientists within the analytics team. And the difference between a data scientist and an analyst, in my mind, in our minds, is both the analyst and data scientist can find out why something is wrong and what is driving it, but only a data scientist can then help tell you, so what should you do? Yep, this is wrong. Yep, these are all causing it. But we also come up with real world language explanations on, okay, these are the 5 things you should do, rather than figuring out and understanding the insight. So that's what a data scientist does. An analytics engineer was called the BI role or BI developer role here initially at Wolt, and we have evolved them to be analytics engineers for the simple reason that both analytics engineer and BI teams work on building source of truth, building the ETL, building the logic to get the metrics. But the difference in an analytics engineer and a BI developer is the analytics engineer brings in the engineering best practices and the mindset to build this at scale and build it for the long term, not just to answer, tell me the metric for tomorrow, but we're building a metric for the next 20 years so that we don't have to keep reimagining the metric and bringing that best practices from an engineering discipline. So those are the 2 roles, data scientist, analytics team, and analytics engineer. So those are 2 roles that we have within the analytics team. And I think all of this is high level. I think somebody who actually does it really well is Elif and her team. So I'll probably let her talk about how her team structured, what they do, and maybe that makes it much more tangible.
Thanks, we do our best. But indeed, like actually you use quite good keywords, like 1, the mirror, and then like 2, scale. About the mirror, so like we are trying to mirror the wider organization, like in the analytics organization. Similarly, in the new verticals analytics, then we try to mirror like how the new verticals domain is organized. We know also that area we have business and operations teams, meaning that are like operational teams, like working on the ground, let's say. I will give more examples about what that really means. There are commercial teams which are focusing on the selection, pricing of the things, and so on. And then, of course, there's product development as well, which we are like heavily embedded to. So our team is also a reflection of that in a way. So we have different team members dedicated to all of these areas. And of course, like since there are synergies across certain teams, certain areas, then there might be team members who are focusing on like those areas that are closely or tightly coupled, let's say. And actually, new verticals is a quite interesting space because whatever we do affects all the 3 main pillars of the Wolt platform, meaning the merchant, the consumers, of course, and the courier experience as well. For example, from the consumer perspective, of course, like we try to provide what the customer needs. In then, like if new verticals tries to provide what our consumers need, whether it's with the groceries or toys, pharmaceuticals, like you name it, like these are all available in the app. Of course, we try to make our best to provide what they need whenever they need, and with the best prices in the way that the people would consume. Of course, like that might mean providing visibility on like what we are selling as well. On the other front, for example, from merchant side, we want the retailers who are selling on the Wolt platform, especially like in the new vertical space, to succeed with us. In them, like this is a great opportunity for them as well to reach a different customer base. So we want them to grow their business with our help in some way. So our team might do different type of analysis and different type of work to support them in that front. Another big aspect is Wolt Market. Basically, like these are our very own like dark stores that people might be aware of, and like we are working very closely with the product development there. And actually, like the data scientists and both the analytics engineers are able to provide solutions to make the lives of the Wolt Market employees better. So in terms of the efficiency in the work, in terms of like time spent on different areas and so on. And these are all done through the work of data scientists and analytics engineers. There was a really nice word of the scale because analytics engineers are actually quite important in building the scale of this business because with the engineering skills they have, they are able to provide different types of automation on top of the metric development and ETL process and so on. So they are actually able to contribute to the whole product development through different type of analytical automations as well. And of course, data scientists are a key part still in driving the business, both from the operational efficiency and growing our selection and like many other things.
So the roles you mentioned, there were at least data scientists in the analytics and then analytics engineer. What kind of difference is there for, especially for the data scientists? I know we have plenty of data scientists outside of analytics domain as well. So what's the difference?
Thank you. That's a great question. So I think just because if it was simple, it will be boring. So we've tried to complicate things. But to humor aside, I think we have the data scientists in the analytics team, like I mentioned, whose difference from being an analyst is they not only tell you why it happened and what drove it, but so what should you do? I think the way we like to think of our machine learning data scientists is they live beyond the why, so why, what, and so what. They live in the how zone, which is, for example, let's take the example of understanding conversion rate on the app is dropping. What the data scientists in the analytics team will do is figure out why is it dropping, what are the drivers that it's dropping, so what should you do? So they can say, we should show venues or merchants that are better in quality, that's why consumer is dropping. We should show venues that are more popular, etc. So we can come up with what should happen, but how do you make it happen? That's a recommendation algorithm that somebody has to build. So the data scientists in the analytics team do the why, what, and so what, and then the how, doing that at scale for millions of consumers with millions of recommendations to show. Doing that is where the machine learning comes in. So the true smarts to build it at scale and with the engineering precision and with the best practices in mind is where the machine learning team comes in. And that's why we've kept it as two separate functions, which is one team that finds out why, what, and so what, and the other team, the machine learning data science team, figures out how to make it happen. So when I say how, what they work on is building the algorithms that can take all these inputs in, deploying those algorithms and maintaining those algorithms, the MLOps around maintaining it. And so building machine learning algorithms and deploying them is a separate function. Figuring out what we need to do and how we need to do is a separate function. So that's roughly how we think about it.
And I think there is like one important detail to clarify to the audience where the data scientist in the analytics team still uses different kind of machine learning approaches and statistical models and techniques as well. So it's not like these are not in use like in our front, but the purpose of using these is slightly different. Where in our case, like we try to uncover the hows and whys and what to do, like Kshira has been saying. And then on the non-analytics team, then the focus has been more on building the scale with that. But in them, like in our case, we are also using these tooling or the techniques like whenever relevant as well.
Some technical terms were mentioned, for example, ETL. So maybe this is a good bridge to talk a bit about like what kind of technical stack we use in the analytics space. And maybe it would be interesting to hear how do we kind of choose between open source solutions versus building things on our own, and any thoughts on that?
So we do a bit of both. We build our own tools and capabilities because I think Wolt is extremely, given how unique this business is and how fast we've grown, a lot of things are custom built within Wolt, as you probably very, very well know, Harry, and you've spoken to a lot of people in the engineering teams. We build things that work specifically for us and specially designed for us. So data is no exception to that. So we built a lot of these applications from ground up, be it the ETL tool, which is extract, transform, and load, or in simple words, extract the data, transform it into a logic that we need, and load it into a database so we can use. So that's what we mean by ETL. And also, how do we create metrics and consume the data? I think over time, given how we've grown, we've realized that sometimes we can also take the best practices from open source applications. So I can give one example. DBT is an open source ETL tool. What we've done is we've taken an open source version of that, we've brought it in-house, applied a wrapper over it, customized it to Wolt needs, and brought in a lot more best practices we've learned from doing things for the last 8-9 years. And so we've built a tool internally. So we do a lot of that is we take the best learnings from the market, we apply a layer on top, and then Voltify it, Wolt grade it to make it something that works for us. So that's how we typically approach it. It's not to say that everything that we use in-house is open source or custom. When the need calls for it, we also buy tools off the shelf because that is faster and that's the right thing to do to move fast. But I think it's a delicate balance between what is very Wolt specific and needs Wolt love, and what is something that we can use off the market.
We could talk a bit about the different stakeholders and partners you have. So you already mentioned that the kind of the product and engineering side is kind of mirrored on the analytics structure. So I guess there's quite clear one-to-one mapping between the product teams that actually build the end user facing things. But how about maybe on the other side or different sides of the table? What are the key stakeholders or partners that analytics people work with at Wolt?
I can take it, and Elif, feel free to make it better, as always do. The analytics team works like truly with, we are part of the product plus function here at Wolt. What that means is we work with the product and engineering team as it functions as a team to figure out what do we build and how do we build it, and are we measuring the right things? So that's one part of what the analytics teams work with. The other big function the analytics team work with are the business teams and the operations team to figure out, is this the right thing to even build, and are we solving the right problem? So that's the other team that we work with. And then the third team, like I said, we work with other finance teams to understand, are we forecasting the right kind of demand? Are we expecting the right kind of growth? Are we spending on the right kind of initiatives? And is it measuring if it pays back in the right way? So we work with three distinct groups. But I think Elif can talk about the fourth group. I think that's the most interesting group, and I'll let her talk to it. I don't want to talk about that. The fourth group, who not all analytics team work with, is the team that Elif's team work with to make their lives better. So I'll let Elif take that.
Yeah, so indeed, yes, like this applies to our team as well. So like we work very closely with finance, with the strategy and operations, with the product, and then our team in the new verticals also touches on the lives of the employees of Wolt markets. Basically, like we have grocery associates and store leads, shift leads, like different kind of roles who are responsible from operating the dark stores, like for real. And we actually have more than 100 of these stores. So like this is a fairly complex international business because we are also operating in different countries. And yeah, our team actually works with making the lives of these team members like way more efficient and like let them enjoy their work, let's say, like through tooling. For example, some of our team members are dedicated to the product development where we are building different kind of solutions, let's say, that recommends what to do to the grocery associates, or to automate certain parts of their processes so that they actually spend less time on doing manual and repetitive work, which obviously makes them focus on what matters instead of just doing like the same type of work every single day. So this has been actually quite a impactful area where we work, and obviously like there has been quite good reception of the type of the work we do in those areas. But yeah, so that's one area, and like mentioned earlier, actually we are working very closely with the operations, and in fact, like this of course depends on the needs of each domain, but in my domain at least, we have, I would say, 50-50 split, or maybe even 60-40, depending on the needs, where the 50 or 60 goes to business operations and the finance to some extent, because like there is so much work on or so much opportunity, let's say, to grow the business through different type of deep dives about the initiatives and so on, where product development is obviously important, but that's why it's like 50-50.
Now that we have given an overview about the kind of our approach overall, maybe you could share a bit about the motivation. Are there some benefits that you have seen coming out of this sort of approach? I don't know if you can compare to maybe are there some industry standard practices from which we differ significantly, and what would be the benefits of the unique approach that we have?
I would say like the way that we partner with the team has been like very important, because when we actually become true partners once again, this of course like it gives us opportunity to focus on what matters for the company and like what we are trying to achieve towards our goals and so on. And one thing we have done actually is to give ownership to the team members as well. Like basically our data scientists own a metric, for example, or own a certain area. Of course, this is coupled very tightly with the domain that they are, or not just the domain, but the function that they are embedded into, whether product or operations and so on. So when they own a metric, actually they are able to think even more about how to improve that and how to help the business to basically like get better in what we are doing. So this has been helping a lot because that also provides opportunity for the team members to, first of all, get creative, have ownership of the development so that they can also come up with ideas or recommendations for sure to improve the business, which then of course ends up in becoming outcomes, not just outputs. Output meaning a deliverable, whether in terms of a report or a data set, or like it can be anything, but it's an outcome actually with some recommendation, hopefully that is implemented by the business or the product as well. And that kind of approach actually gives the team members even more encouragement to contribute to the work because they actually are able to see how they contribute to the business. So this kind of ownership actually helps them to also showcase their skills and have an impact on the wider business, hopefully. So that has been like one benefit, not only from team members' perspective, but also again from like the whole business and on the true partnership side. And Kshira, I'm sure you have some items to add.
Yeah. I think you probably put it beautifully, right? So like I keep saying, Harry, I'll keep going back to the same thing for the 4 pillars, right? Because resources are constrained, we don't want to invest in everything. We don't want to take 100 different shots. We want to make sure every single shot we take is the right shot and we build the right thing. So we help the business and the product engineering teams work on the right things and help narrow down our focus on the most important areas. And I think how Mickey keeps talking about focus, and Ford focus is the joke all the time. So we help the teams focus on the right thing. So that's the key outcome, making sure that we take the right shots on target and our shots on target are successful. For our consumers and our merchants, it's a much better experience shopping with Wolt or being with Wolt. So for consumers, making sure they get what they want to get, seeing what they want to see, and making it affordable at the right time, at the right place, so that you're not applying blanket pricing for everyone, but smarter pricing for everyone, the right selection for all our consumers. So consumers enjoy being with Wolt, and also helping our merchant partners grow, making sure that they get the right support and the right growth because of being with a partner with Wolt. So I think we like to think the work we do impacts daily lives, and that's part of what gets us excited. So the key benefits of this approach of being a true partner or having a seat at the table has helped us make these decisions and know that the recommendation that the team has made actually helps make those decisions. So which has been good.
So trust and ownership seem to be the recurring themes, and I would say those go way beyond analytics at Wolt. So at least like the high level of ownership is something that we aim for in all the areas in our work. All right. I know you peeps love numbers, so how do you measure success?
How do we measure success? Yes, you're right. The way we measure success is we wanted work down from so simply put, our business operates on this model of OKR. So we set OKR, which is objectives and key results. What do we want to achieve? A set of 7 to 10 targets that we want to achieve for the business. As Wolt, entirely as Wolt. And then we take it down, and let's say hypothetically, let's take an example, right? Everyone, it's no brainer to say we have, say, top line sales as a target. So we take that metric, instead of just having it as a metric on a presentation and somebody talking about it once every 3 months or 6 months, we take it, we then break it down saying who all can impact this top line sales. Okay, consumer team can do this, merchant team can do this, So we break it down into all of those teams and then say, how much is the consumer team going to help improve our top line? How much a merchant team, etc. Then we take within the consumer team, we take the top line metric and then break it down further to say what all projects and initiatives can we help to do that. So we call this laddering, taking it from the top, breaking it down to each component teams, taking it and breaking it into sub teams, and then breaking it to individual initiatives and projects that can move this OKR. So if you think about it, each member in our team, so for example, in Elif's team, each member in our team will be actively working on a project with the product and the business and everyone else to actually move that metric. And so in 3 or 6 months' time, they can turn back and say, we did this 5 things. We've impacted this part of the metric, which eventually impacted the bigger part of the metric, which eventually impacted our capital OKR. And so they can feel proud and connected to the, like you said, a sense of ownership to, I did this work and I know quantifiably and tangibly that my work actually moved the business by X percentage point. So that's how we measure success. That's how we make it more tangible. And I think it'd be good to come from Elif, to hear from Elif, like, for example, a metric, say, how do we manage an inventory, for example, something like that. I think that's very tangible, and how Elif does it is very in line with that.
Yeah, and like there is, for example, a metric or inventory is a big focus area, let's say, on the like Wolt market business, like to grow the dark stores. And indeed, like the inventory is actually owned by us because these are stores that we fully operate. So we are responsible from how much inventory we have, and then like whether we are able to, whether these things are sold and whether these are relevant to the customers and so on. So we have different metrics to also understand how this inventory moves. And the relevance to the customer, like I said, and then like to manage our inventory in the best way, of course, like we have different metrics to break down, and then like our team members have been doing different type of analysis to understand actually what are the drivers of, let's say, inventory moving too much or not at all, vice versa. So this can go to many directions. Or then if we are running out of stock, if yes, why? And so on. So we, with these kind of deep dives, actually, first we even had the teams to set their OKRs and or define the initiative. So this is actually even before setting the initiative. And then once as a group we settle on the initiatives that we want to do, like this year we will do X, Y, Z, or like in this time period, we will do X, Y, Z to make sure like we have enough inventory and we are in a good shape in terms of like the related metrics. Then we start working on those, as mentioned. And yeah, like after that, actually, like with those initiatives, we are able to very closely track how the inventory moves and like and if the automation is, since we have too much automation around this topic, since the automation we develop also helps in these fronts, and how also the inventory managers are able to manage this whole process in an efficient way, because this is also another aspect of the whole problem. Like inventory you have is one challenge, and then how we manage this in an efficient way is another challenge, since this is a growing business like on an international scale. And in then, yeah, like we are working like very closely with the related counterparts, meaning the operational teams, and then of course like the business, like who is making decision about like what kind of inventory we should have. So overall, like the team members who are dedicated to these areas are doing different types of analysis, and they are tracking the metrics that are in terms of availability or how much we are running out of stock. Hopefully not. And like are we actually making sure we have enough stocks beforehand and so on. So all these things are actually tracked like very closely by our team members, so that they can also measure like what kind of direction we are taking and whether we are getting closer to our bigger goals.
Great, thank you. Maybe to summarize, could you maybe give some or pick the key learnings out of our approach, which might be applicable to other companies, no matter what their scale is? And of course, like we have talked about like our whole process into analytics, and I'm sure that's not a good fit for any other company. But if you could pick some ingredients which you think could be applicable elsewhere as well, what would those be?
I would say, if specifically from an analytics team, structuring the team to work on directly what impacts the business. And so tying each member in the team, you could have a 5-member analytics team or a 500-member analytics team, making sure every member in the analytics team is actually working on a key outcome for the business is the difference. So that's probably what I'd say. So the difference, and you say, obviously that makes so much sense, because when you say intuitive things, it makes sense. So the difference is the flip side. Typically how analytics team are structured is people work on a project or an initiative. Somebody will work on a recommendation system, somebody will work on a personalization system, somebody will work on something, finding out something else. Now that is not how you structure it. You structure people on you improve top line sales, you will improve profitability, you will improve inventory. And so if you structure it like that, then everything within that, the person lives, breathes, thinks about how to improve the metric and the outcome, rather than coming up with ideas that they want to build and work on. And that's the reason a lot of the analytics teams face disappointment, is because they come up with these amazing ideas and nobody wants to use them. And so you hear this often in the analytics world where, oh, we built these things, but nobody wanted to use them. That's because business didn't want it. That's why it didn't use it. It's not like the business doesn't want to use it. So I think if there's one learning and one difference in how we operate and how other companies operate, is that fact that our teams are structured around what the business needs and helping the business understand what it truly needs. So that relationship is what I would say works really.
Maybe addition to that, and then an additional smaller like learning, I would say. Definitely like making the team member or like letting the team members focus on a business problem and like working with the metric has helped a lot. Like, and we have seen like direct contribution of that in our work, because that way actually they are also building expertise around the topic. For example, like it's really hard for people to be the master of everything, obviously, and like especially in our domain, like in new verticals, there are so many moving parts. Where like mentioned, like inventory is one problem, selection, meaning what type of products we sell, is another problem, and then or problem sounds a bit negative. I mean, like it's like a focus area, let's say. And then we are working on both the success of the Wolt market business and then also third-party retail. So this is a really wide domain, and we can't expect everyone to be the master of everything. So that's why actually it's really important to give space to the team members also to focus on an area. So in this case, this is the metric, so that they can think of how to lift that in the best way they can. And this actually also makes people to think about what kind of recommendation they can do as well, so that they can actually think of like, how do I help the business, and of course, like by making recommendations about how to improve the situation, and also document this clearly and like write them down and communicate, which of course helps with the visibility of the work, the team members like contribution, and plus of course like a company-wide visibility about how we are working all together. So this kind of ownership actually paid off in many different ways, which eventually again becomes like the trust between the partners, and which takes us again to being a true partner. And then on top of that, like I said, like documentation has been like one additional thing that I wanted to mention. This has been like an important learning for all of us, because obviously like data scientists always try to document what they have done. But documenting it in a clear way, like with obvious recommendations to all the partners, has been a game changer as well. Because one common mistake I see, like in the industry overall, so like in any company which might have either a BI or analytics function, is data scientists or data analysts might do a different kind of analysis, or maybe create a dashboard like with some kind of information in it. But when you don't necessarily explain why this matters and why this is a thing that we should care as a company, it doesn't always bring the impact. So that's why actually making the translation of the recommendations like in an understandable language, let's say, in a human language, actually has been like another game changer, I would say.
All right, now we have mainly discussed about the current state of things. Would be interesting to hear how things have evolved during the past years. So like I mentioned at the beginning, we have grown quite rapidly, and I'm sure this has impacted our take on analytics as well. So as it has been only wins and victories so far, maybe if you could share some learning from the history where things didn't work out that well. We tried something,
100%.
didn't work for us.
Like I absolutely love sharing what didn't work, because failure is the stepping stone to success. So if everything was successful, we'd not be here, we'd not have a job. So I'm happy to share all the learnings we've had. So 3 things that stand out very quickly. One is, if you don't take a proactive, and we as a team, we hadn't taken a proactive voice, we didn't have a seat at the table, which basically meant we were mostly measuring things after they had done, which doesn't really help both the business and doesn't help the teams that are building it. Because if you measure things after you've done something, if you don't experiment it, etc., what you're doing is you're just trying to validate that it is good and trying to justify it, rather than truly build for the right thing. So that's one lesson. So we've learned that we need to be more proactive as a team, and we need to voice out our opinions. We just can't silently be silent assistants, but we need to be true partners. That's one. The second thing we've learned is, analysts naturally are folks, and data scientists are folks who like to come up with a lengthy document, a nice presentation that looks like a proper presentation thesis that talks about all the things that you should do. But somebody who makes a decision does not have time to read through it and understand it. And I just said that's the whole reason they didn't take up science as a topic or math as a topic. They just need to be told, do these 3 things. And if you really need to know why, these are the 10 reasons. So I think we are coming to that level where we are coming to be more prescriptive about what to do and how to do it. I think it's a new learning experience for us as the analytics team, and also for the business who used to more getting all of it and then digesting the insights on their own. Now we are pre-digesting it for them and giving it to the business or the product. And so then there is like, hey, wait a minute, if you're doing this, what do I do? And you're telling them you can do smarter, better things. I think that's the other evolution. So which is basically recommendations and not research. And the last thing is also the part where I like to think that's definitely working better for us. Things that we didn't do well and we are trying to slowly evolve is, I think what Elif mentioned, right? Some of our teams were focused more on the output, which is, hey, I need to finish building this project or initiative, rather than saying, wait a minute, is this the right thing to do? Should we actually work on improving this? So we that's a muscle that we are building and that we are evolving. And the history behind the team is we have naturally been a lean team working on a product or initiative. So each member is extremely passionate about building what he or she sets out to build. While that is great, telling the team, hey, it's okay, it's fine. You spend 3 months doing it. It's not working out. Let's just drop it because it's not the right thing for the business. It's a hard thing for the teams to digest and the person to digest. So that's something we are learning. So those are things that we are learning. So that 3 things that work for us are we be true partners, not assistants. We'll focus on the outcomes, not an output. And then we'll focus on recommendation, not being a research team. So those are things that I would say are learnings for us and that we are trying to improve.
How about Elif? Anything to add on top?
Overall, in then like what we landed as of today in terms of the current structure is a result of all the learnings, and like among those or on top of the previous points, maybe one thing I could say is the team or the composition of like the dedication of the time. Like I was saying like earlier, like at least in my team we have somewhat of like a 50-50 split of product and operations, but actually when I joined my current team to like grow it, actually that wasn't the case. We were focusing a bit more on the product side, and while this has some benefits, in then like this also makes us like not see the big picture and maybe not necessarily build what the business really needs. And by nature, the speed of the product development and the operations is like quite different. And obviously, like when you focus only on product, like you might be looking at the long term too much, while in the operations there might be other types of problems that we are overlooking. And with that, actually, like one other big learning is, at least like on my side, was the importance of working together with the operations and like products, which is actually why now we are working that way. So this has been a journey as well, and like again, this has brought lots of benefits too.
Great, thank you for sharing the learnings. Let's end this with giving a short sneak peek into the future. So is there something cooking at the moment that you are excited about, like considering the future?
I think as Wolt is growing really fast and as we're expanding into more countries and doing more different parts, more different aspects to how we operate as a business, adding new verticals, adding ads, and a lot of other things, the complexities enhance. What I'm excited about is as a team, we're coming together and connecting the dots, right? So initially, like we said, each team focused on their own mission and their own approach. The thing that was lacking at the table is somebody to connect the dots, not because people didn't want to, because everyone's busy doing what they did. Now it feels like there is a book, there are all these dots, and somebody gave you a pencil and said, connect the dots. If you are somebody who loves connecting dots and figuring out what the bigger picture looks like, that's what the future looks like. Because we have a pencil now, we have a notebook now, we have all the dots. We even have connected some of the dots. We haven't connected all the dots. So for anybody who likes playing connect the dots as a kid and you want a role, we are here. We that's exactly what we're like, looking to the next 12, 24.
Okay, I think that's a great ending note for this episode. Thanks a lot, Kshira and Elif, for joining me as guests. I really enjoyed the content today, so thanks a lot. And for the listeners, see you next time. Bye-bye.